Hello and welcome to a very special episode of the Field of 68 After Lunch. I think that's what we're going to brand this, Goodman, the Field of 68 After Lunch. My name is Rob Dosser. I have Jeff Goodman with me, and we have a lot to get to. A lot to get to in the portal, a lot to get to in terms of all Americans announcing that they are coming back to school. And we have a list of the top 10 transfers that are still available that it feels like, Jeff, every single time I talk to you within like the hour, that list changes. So we are currently recording this for the audio listeners at 2 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday, April 16th. So if this list changes over the course of the hour, 2 hour, 8 hours, whatever it is before you hear it, don't blame us. It's the nature of the portal and the nature of the beast right now. A lot of news to get to. Lamar Wilkerson committed with us yesterday on the Field of 68. We're going to talk about that impact on Indiana here in just a minute. But before we do, Jeff, to me, the single biggest piece of news that we've gotten in this college basketball offseason to date is that Braden Smith is not only coming back to school, is not only passing up on the NBA draft, but the guy that was probably third in line for the National Player of the Year honors, a first-team All-American consensus, is coming back to Purdue. What do you make of this news? How important is this for the Boilermakers? And is this something where Purdue fans should be a little bit more surprised than I think that they are?
Wait, didn't I ask Matt Painter about this at the Final Four? Didn't he say Braden Smith was coming back in maybe not, those exact words, but he certainly said Braden Smith was coming back to school. So it's really no surprise to us. They got him on a little bit of a hometown discount. You got guys going for $3-4 million. I don't, from what I'm told, Purdue didn't pay him that. But again, there's two different things here at play when we talk about the money. There's the money that Purdue, the collective, is paying. And then there's the money that Braden Smith's going to be able to get kind of through Purdue, right, in the community from other sponsors related to Purdue or national sponsors, like was the case with Cooper Flagg. So, I think Braden Smith's going to make upwards of $3.5, maybe $4 million overall. But again, Purdue got him at a little bit of a discount. And, he's as important as any player coming back in college basketball right now, because who do you trust more than Braden Smith at the most important position? Nobody. It's not even debatable, right? If you're starting your team with one player, you are absolutely 100% going to start it with Braden Smith. I don't care who is coming into college. Darren Peterson Jr., my feelings about him. I've said I thought he was the number one player in the country for a year now. A.J. DeMonsa, we know his upside and his talent. Boozer, we know Cameron, what he's going to do. He's probably going to average 18 and 10 next year. But Braden Smith is a guy that you build around, and the other part for Braden Smith is there's no acclimation process. He's already a dude. He's already a guy that you could throw anything at, and he's already been able to, play Batman this past year and play Robin like he did a couple years ago.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, one, you get back a point guard, right? And we saw how good he is. I know you're going to scoff when I say this. You're going to make that face, face when I say this. But his second half against Houston was the best half that I've seen a point guard play in college basketball in as long as I can remember. He was unbelievable in that half. And you get a guy that is capable of doing that coming back. But I think more importantly, it's not just that he's back. Fletcher Loyer is back. I believe Trey Kaufman-Renn is expected. I don't know if he's put it out officially yet, but he's expected back.
Yeah,
right?
He'll be back.
Yeah. CJ Cox and Jakari Harris, as of right now, are expected back.
Yes, you lost.
Well, you got Oscar Clough coming in, but the bigger point is, look at 3 of the 4 teams that made the Final Four. They brought back like 68% of their scoring or higher when it's Houston, Florida, and Auburn. Right. Duke did not, but Duke also was the only program that's building around elite freshmen at that level in college basketball this year. So they're a little bit of an outlier. And you have 5 or 6 core important pieces that you can build around, including the 3 seniors that have been with this program the longest, that have been there since the start of the Zach Edey era. Right. And I think that when you are looking for teams that have the opportunity to win a national championship, that's kind of what you got to look for first in this day and age of college basketball, right? Is who has the most continuity, and who has the most continuity at the key places, like the point guard spot, like the post spot, like the wing. So for me, I know we put out our preseason top 25, and we can probably get into this debate quite a bit over the course of the offseason. We had Purdue second, Houston number one. I think that is very much debatable. To me, that's similar to, they're very similar, and I think you can make a pretty strong argument, especially if Milos Uzan keeps his name in the NBA draft, that Purdue should be the preseason number one team in college basketball, the national title favorite. And I would say right now, Braden Smith is my preseason national player of the year. And all due respect to JT Toppin, I don't even know if you can make an argument with that.
No, you're right. Like to me, Braden Smith clearly, unless you're going to go with one of those freshmen and say, hey, Darren Peterson, he's going to be the number one overall pick. He's going to do what Cooper Flagg did for Duke this year, which he may have to. He may have to, Rob, when you look at their roster right now. But ultimately, the safe pick is Braden Smith. And, Purdue also picked up another player today. And I know you're gonna screw up his first name, but Omir, I think it's Amir Meyer, but I'm not sure of the pronunciation.
I like how you say that I'm going to screw up his first name, and then you proceed to not pronounce his first name correctly. Just throw me under the bus.
It's Amir, but yeah, he's an Israeli guard. Got good size, 6'3", 6'4", shoots it well. I don't know what the impact's going to be coming over to Purdue, but he gives him another option, another weapon, and again, they got a lot. They got a lot back, and they added Oscar Clough, who you and I both know from playing at South Dakota State last year. He's a tough, hard-nosed front court player who can it'll be interesting to see how it's going to work with Trey Kaufman-Renn and Clough and whether or not they can play together. They got Jacobson coming back from injury. I mean, they got a lot. Matt Painter's got a lot coming back.
Yeah, he's got a lot of pieces. I would have liked to see them go and get one more big wing or keep one of Cam Heide or Miles Colvin around. But I think that they're betting on CJ Cox or Jakari Harris taking a step forward if they're not really out actively looking for that role in the portal. So at some point, you just kind of have to close your eyes and trust that Matt Painter knows what he's doing, because he's proven in this era where everybody is reloading and switching their rosters over every season. He's not doing it. And I don't know if there's a program that's had more sustained success over the last 3 seasons than Purdue has. I do think it's also an interesting kind of topic here, right? So the only underclassman right now that is definitively leaving for the NBA draft that was one of the first on one of the 3 All-American teams on either our All-American team or the AP All-American team is Cooper Flagg, for obvious reasons, right? Braden Smith was first team. He's coming back to school. TKR was the 3rd team AP guy. He's coming back to school. JT Toppin was the 2nd team All-American consensus. He's coming back to school. Donovan Dent, we had him 3rd team. He's coming back to school. He transferred, but he's going to be back in school. PJ Haggerty, as of right now, has not said what he's doing, but I'm assuming that he will be back in school as well. RJ Lewis is the one question mark, but he's both in the portal and testing the waters for the NBA draft. So everybody else that had eligibility remaining came back. So I feel like that is a very, very good sign on the health of college basketball and one of the positives that NIL provide. Like right now at this point, Goodman, if you're not a top 20 pick, it almost doesn't make sense for you to go to the NBA draft, because you can get more money in one season next year than you can in your first year as an NBA player.
You're right. When I hear you say the health of college basketball, I just scoff, right? Like I don't know how you can use the word health in college basketball in the same sentence right now, because it is a shit show. It is. I mean, there's no rules right now. Good for the kids. They're making, life-changing money, a lot of them, these players. But again, right now it's a shit show with kids going to a different college every year. And making decisions that certainly will help them financially today. But again, as Robbie Hummel and I talked about it on our pod the other day, you go from making $2, $3, $4 million this year, and you don't understand, and you can't really comprehend why next year, okay, I'm going to play overseas and I'm going to get $100,000. Shit, I don't want to do that. Like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I just got paid $3 million, $4 million. I shouldn't have to make $100,000. They have no value, no real value of money right now, because the market has exploded for this year, because frankly, college basketball and college sports were not in a position to handle all the changes that have taken place here in the last year or so.
Uh, Fair enough. I was more looking at it from the point of uh, people are going to be paying attention to it a lot more because there are going to be big names that are back. And maybe the sport itself is not healthy, but in terms of being able to cover it and what we do, there's never been more reason to pay attention for a longer period of time or more recognizable names that have been in and around the sport for the last couple of years. Um, who would you have right now? Preseason number one, knowing that Milos Uzan is declaring for the draft, also knowing that Pop Isaacs just announced that he will be, well, it didn't just announce, it was about a week ago at this point, but that he will be attending Houston, knowing the recruiting class they have coming in, knowing some of the additions that Texas Tech has made. It's not just JT Toppin coming back. You got Lawan Watts from Washington State coming in. You got Donovan Atwell from UNC Greensboro coming in. We know what Louisville's done. We know what be like. Who right now do you have number one? Is it got to be Houston at this point?
No, I don't think it has to be Houston. I could make a case for Purdue. Again, you have, the most important player in Braden Smith. You got Trey Kaufman-Renn. If you put somebody next to him, if Daniel Jacobson is healthy as a rim protector, shot blocker, I don't know how well. Again, I want to see that with my own eyes to see how that works with Clough and take TKR or Jacobson and TKR. But I could easily make a case for Purdue over Houston at this point. I think the team to watch here and the team that could be the number one team in days or a week if they get the right pieces, and we'll talk about this in a minute, is Rick Pitino and St. John's, because they're in there for Xaivian Lee and Ian Jackson. And, they just picked up Isaiah Sellers today, one of the best shooters in the portal, a 40% shooter the last 2 years at Stanford. Obviously, they got Shannon and from Arizona State. He can shoot it at the 3 spot. Bryce Hopkins at the 4, Zuby back at the 5. They're top 6 or 7. If they land, to me, they're the number one team in the country if they land Xaivian Lee and Ian, maybe even just Xaivian Lee. If they get him, I think I'm willing to put them at number one.
Yeah, I think Xaivian Lee is the big one, and we'll kind of dive into that here in a few minutes when we get to that. That's what we call a tease here in the business, Goodman. We have our list of the 10 best transfers that are available on the market, and you just mentioned 2 of, I believe, our top 5 right there that are left kind of on the board, and the top 2 might actually be heading to the NBA. So we'll talk about that here in just a minute or two. I want to make my pitch for Texas Tech on why I think Texas Tech should have a very real case to be the preseason number one team in college basketball. Christian Anderson, we saw the leap that he made towards the end of his sophomore season, right? Or the end of his freshman season. We know how good he's been at different points throughout the year. You have JT Toppin coming back. So you have your 1 and you have your 5 and you have kind of the tent poles for the team that you want to be able to put together. And then if you look at the rest of the roster that they put together, Lawan Watts might not be as good as Darian Williams, but I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a guy that can't fill that same kind of a role. Like, he's a big physical wing. He's not super athletic. He's a playmaker. I think he averaged like 13, 7, and 4 last year at Washington State. Really good player. Tyree Bryan, we saw him at our event in South Dakota, Goodman. He's a big kind of a combo forward that can stretch the floor a little bit, knock down some threes. Donovan Atwell is a guy that shot 42% from 3, an athletic wing. Like, they've found a way to be able to rebuild this roster in the vein of a program that wants a point guard with a 5-man that can rim run, and then a bunch of playmakers and shooters around those 2. And that's what Grant McCasland built last year. That's what he's trying to build this year. I think he's had success doing that. And I think the talent level has been upped. They're bringing back an All-American. And when it comes to retention, right, when it comes to bringing back the pieces that already kind of understand what you're asking for in a program, having your 1 and your 5 be the 2 that you build it around, I think is as good as any situation that you can be in. So I'm in on Texas Tech being right there. I think I probably would lean Purdue and Houston over them still, but Texas Tech you can't have a discussion about the best team in college basketball without including Texas Tech in some way in that argument.
It's open, Rob. Rob, the beauty is it's open because you have all these teams that have huge budgets right now too. And we're not going to know probably until May, at least a month, maybe longer, because we don't know what Darian Williams is going to do. We don't know what RJ Lewis is going to do, right? Certainly it looks like, and we can talk about these guys, that they're leaning towards staying in the draft. But we know that shit changes quickly.
Yep.
If you're being told by NBA teams that you're not a lock first round pick right now, well, what's the point? You're going to go back. Now, again, the question is there going to be room? We know RJ Lewis isn't going to be back at St. John's, right? How it ended. But, kind of like we saw with Coleman Hawkins last year, he comes back. Somebody is desperate at that point. There's some schools that are waiting at that point or have missed out and still have a big pile of cash sitting around that they haven't used, and they're going to go overpay for whoever's, maybe not even overpay compared to the market, but guys like that can obviously make big money. They're going to have fewer elite level options, right? The Dukes aren't going to be there probably. The Kansases aren't going to be there. Those types of schools are probably already going to, have their rosters full. But schools like, the Kansas States of the world, they might still have some money lying around and willing to pay a guy like that.
Yep. All right. So let's we might as well just get into that conversation now, since you're open to that can of worms. Our top 10 transfers that we have currently available as of this recording at 2:16 p.m. Eastern Time, Wednesday, April 16th. Number 1, RJ Lewis from St. John's. Number 2, Darian Williams from Texas Tech. I think you can make a pretty strong argument that Darian Williams and RJ Lewis could be flipped in terms of who's number 1 and number 2 there. But I think those two are the consensus top 2. Ian Jackson is 3rd, Jameer Watkins at 4, Xaivian Lee at 5, and then Rodney Rice, Mackenzie Mgbako, Trayson Eaglestaff, who is a new addition to this list, and we'll talk about why it's a new addition here in a second, Darian Reed, and Cedric Coward from Washington State. We have Tyon Grant Foster there on the list. We changed it to Cedric Howard. One of those two will be in there at some point. So let's start with RJ Lewis and Darian Williams. Goodman, are you expecting those two to keep their name in the draft at this point?
Yes. I mean, again, that's where they're leaning at this point. But it depends on what information you get back. So they can say it all they want that they're focused, but as they go through the process, and if teams are telling them, hey, you're not a lock first-round pick, because I think that's what you need to be. I mean, if teams are telling you, hey, you're going to go 25 to 40, 45, which is a range that a lot of players get back when they go through this process, to me, you go back to school, because at that point, you're talking about maybe being a two-way guy, or best case scenario, late in the first round is going to get you $2 million a year. We know what JT Toppin just got. Now, again, a lot of it is timing, right? A lot of it is timing. But as of today, I think both those guys in their minds and talking to their camps, they're both likely to stay in the draft. But again, there's a lot of moving parts in this thing as they go through the process.
Yeah, let's just say for RJ Lewis' sake, right? He shot 30-something% from 3 this year on low attempts. He's not a guy that's known for being a shooter, right? And you go and you hear that you're probably going to be an early second-round pick, which seems like the most likely outcome for him. And while you're going through all of that, you also happen to hear that, a program like a Tennessee still has some money available because they missed on someone like Nate Ament, or someone like a North Carolina needs someone to kind of fill that Harrison Ingram role that nobody filled for them last season, and they still have some money available. That seems like a much more attractive option to come back and play at that level. And I'm just throwing those names out. I'm not saying that I've heard. I'm just plugging holes that I see on certain rosters. I think that's a very easy connection to make. Darian Williams is the more interesting one to me, because I think that he has, because of his passing ability, because of his shooting ability, I get some, and I don't know if you'll laugh at me when I say this, but I get some George Niang vibes from him when I watch him play. And I think that if you look at the career, that it's very easy for me to watch Darian Williams.
Because they're both big-bodied and slow and not athletic.
And they're big-bodied. They're a little bit slower. They really understand the game. They can pass it. They can shoot it. You can play him as a point forward. You can play him in short roll situations. And I do believe that they are good enough. Darian Williams is good enough positionally defensively, like Niang is, where, you're never going to use him as a shutdown defender, but he's going to be able to play within a scheme and within a team. So it's just easier for me to kind of look at Darian Williams and say there's guys like him in the NBA, whereas someone like an RJ Lewis, it's harder for me to see him finding a way to latch on long term.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, again, I think both of them, if I'm looking at it as their agent, I'm going to go through the process. I'm going to see what the feedback is. I'm going to keep some schools warm here. I'm going to make sure I'm keeping some schools warm and letting them know that, hey, I'm not all in. I'm still, I want a backup plan at this point. And maybe even, to me, again, we'll get to a guy like Cedric Coward here in a minute or later on in this, but, a guy like him, I think he'll go through the process, but he'll commit to a school. So I almost feel like that's the better way to play this. I understand that you want the NBA folks to know you're all in, but you also want to have a backup plan. And if you can have a school, it's like the kid Yaxel, right, who signed with Michigan. Great example right now. UAB transfer, signed with Michigan for a boatload of money, somewhere in the $3 million range, according to my sources. One of the best college players in America, like unbelievable, does everything, Swiss Army knife, scores it, rebounds, not a great athlete, but passes the shit out of it, does everything well. So he committed to Michigan. And again, my sources tell me he is very focused and leaning towards staying in the NBA draft. So if you're him, you got both sides covered right now, don't you? If you're RJ Lewis, wouldn't you do that, Rob? If you're advising a kid like RJ Lewis or Darren Williams, wouldn't you say, hey, get a bird in the hand, already have a school that's committed to you, and they understand the situation. Hey, I want to get to the NBA, but if not, you know what? I got plan B already set here.
Yeah, and the writing's kind of on the wall with the Yaxel Landenberg thing, right? Like they got Morris Johnson coming in, they got a Mara coming in, you got Yaxel, you got three big guys coming in, right? It feels like there's how are you going to get all those minutes, all three of those guys minutes that'll allow them to earn the value that they cost in the portal? But it's for me, it'd be a hard thing as a college to do, right? Because I think that's what you should do as a player. It'd be hard for me as one of the schools, if I know a kid is going through the draft process, to commit that much money to him when I don't know if I'm going to be able to fill it with a comparable player. Like I would much rather, instead of going after RJ Lewis, go after like a Jameer Watkins or go after Mackenzie Mgbako, go get another small forward, spend the money on him and know that you're going to get that kid instead of bringing him in. I just wonder how much the Coleman Hawkins situation is the one that I keep coming back to, right? Like how many schools are going to have that much money available late in the process when you get to late May or early June, which I believe is when Coleman
not the ones you want to go to, not the ones that are top on your list. Like I said, the Dukes, the Kansases, the Carolinas, the blue blood types probably aren't going to wait. They're going to take a bird in the hand. So, yeah, I think your options are still going to be there money-wise, but they're not going to be there school-wise of what you wanted.
Yep. All right, let's keep working through this list. Ian Jackson, number 3 on our list, North Carolina transfer. It seemed like all the smoke was pointing towards St. John's when he decided to get in the portal. It came down to St. John's in North Carolina when he committed to the Tar Heels, but he has yet to commit. What do you know about Ian Jackson, Jeff?
St. John's is still the front runner here. And again, the key here is trying to fill out the roster, trying to figure this thing out. Obviously, they got a shooter today. They're trying to get a point guard, and that'll lead us to probably our next guy we're going to talk about here in Xaivian Lee. But I think that's the priority right now for Rick Pitino and the Johnnies. It's getting that point guard situation locked up, because if you get that, your starting lineup, again, is friggin' loaded. I mean, absolutely loaded. And it's not just loaded, Rob. It fits. The pieces fit together. And, oh, by the way, you'd have a team with talent where the pieces fit, and you finally have shooters and athletes, which 2 years ago he didn't have athletes. Last year he didn't have shooters, and coached by arguably the best coach in the sport right now in Rick Pitino, who's, 72 years old. It would be unbelievable. If they got Ian Jackson, my take on that, if they get him, he's obviously fighting sellers and maybe Sannon, but more Sellers, I think, to who's going to start. Ian Jackson would have to, beat out Sellers. And I think, honestly, Sellers is more important to them because they need shooters. Ian Jackson would be great as your kind of sixth man coming off the bench. I just don't know if that's what what they would want in this situation. So I think Ian Jackson is close to pulling the trigger on the Johnnies. Just kind of at this point, it's kind of a waiting game on whether or not maybe the numbers are there for him and just the fit on both sides.
Yeah, that Isaiah Sellers commitment is one that kind of made me raise my eyebrows a little bit because you still have Simeon Wilcher back. You have you got the Santa kid who's already committed. You have Bryce Hopkins. All of a sudden, there's a lot of bodies in that 2 through 4 spot, and that's to say nothing of Ruben Prey, who's coming back to the program as well. So the priority's got to be point guard, which is, it sounds like, Xaivian Lee, we might as well get to him here. He's number 5 on our list. He took a visit to Kansas. He just got back today from a visit to Florida. He's visited St. John's, and it feels like it's down to those 3. Correct me if I'm wrong, Goodman. What do you have on Xaivian Lee?
Yeah, my sources say that it's probably a 2-horse race here. I think Kansas is in 3rd place right now. It's between St. John's and Florida. And if I'm a betting man, Rob, which I'm not a betting, well, I am, but just, in certain things. I actually won a little bit of money on the Masters, believe it or not. If I'm a betting man, I think Xaivian Lee ends up in Gainesville with the defending national champion Florida Gators. I really do. I think they have the best shot for him right now. I think this is going to be done in the next day or so. So I think, again, that would be huge for Florida because, Florida is still – their front court should be in pretty good shape. Alex Condon obviously is going to test the draft waters. If I'm him, of course he should come back. His stock couldn't have been lower in the NCAA tournament. He was so good through most of the regular season. But, man, it's hard to get that taste out of your mouth if you're an NBA guy watching him in the NCAA tournament because he was bad in almost every game. So Alex Condon comes back. Thomas Houck comes back. Micah Hanlogton comes back. Their front court, I don't know how they're going to fit, because they don't have a 3 there. They don't really have a 3-man there. They're going to have to figure that part out. But, to me, if you can add Xaivian Lee to that, and you got Aberdeen coming back, they'll add one more guard probably to that or one more wing if they can. I think then you got to.
They have to get another wing. They got to get another wing, right?
Yeah,
you're probably. I think right now you're 3 perimeter players short if you're Florida, because the Clavsar kid can eat up some minutes, and you still got that what's his name? Don't they have a couple of freshmen signed who I think could probably eat up some minutes as well? Yep. But I think you need Xaivian Lee would be a big one because of how good he is. Finding a way to get another wing on the roster just to be able to have that 3 guy, even if it's just a floor spacer, wouldn't matter. And then
we got Giniello back. Big Ruben's back too. I mean, their front court is friggin' loaded. Yeah.
One of my hot takes is that Thomas Houck is going to end up being an All-American next year. I think he's the guy that takes the real leap next season because of his shooting ability. Yeah. Yeah, like that. That's a good take, right?
Well, yeah, I don't know how because of the minutes. I don't know how he's going to put up like crazy numbers because there's too many mouths to feed on that front line.
I think he ends up winning out a lot of the minutes at the 4 and plays like 25, 28 minutes a game, and it ends up being one of Hanlogden or Ruben Chinyelu who sees their minutes cut at the 5 spot. Because I think that Condon is more of a 5/4. Chinyelu is a 5. Hanlogden's a 5. So I think that what happens is you see a lot more Condon Houck lineups put together there. So Xaivian Lee at Florida would be a lot of fun. All I'm saying, if there's anybody from the Florida staff paying attention, the only thing that I'm saying is that the last time we had a point guard picking between St. John's and Florida commit on the field of 68, not only did he pick Florida, but within 2 years, he was a first-team All-American, and he won a national title. That's all I'm saying, Jeff. That's all I'm saying. Maybe just maybe.
Hey, if our incredible producer Dagan Hughes was ready for this moment. Imagine if he could have run that commitment right now of Walter Clayton Jr. on the field.
I didn't think about it until this. I didn't think about that until this very moment. All right, let's roll through a couple more of these. Actually, we got to get to Jameer Watkins. We'll talk about Mackenzie Mgbako. We'll talk about Darian Reed. I know you want to get to Cedric Coward. You are foaming at the mouth to talk about this kid.
Yep.
And then obviously, Trezin, if you are a Kentucky fan, you want to hear what we have to say about Trayson Eaglestaff and about Lamar Wilkerson. And we'll do all of that after the break. If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM for the season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Go download the BetMGM app and use the code FIELD today. College basketball fans, are you ready to take your hoops game to a new level? Whether you're a seasoned bettor or just trying to win your March Madness office pool, Rhythm is here to give you the edge this season. With data-driven predictions for every single college basketball game left on the schedule, Rhythm helps you maximize your bets. And as March Madness kicks off, Rhythm's insights will help you spot those plucky Cinderellas that you know are going to shake up the NCAA tournament. But that's not all. When Selection Sunday rolls around, let Rhythm's AI-powered bracket generator do the heavy lifting for you. This is the same AI tool that performed 35% better than the average ESPN bracket last year. And here's the best part. Rhythm pairs perfectly with our Field of 68 expert analysis, giving you the 1-2 punch that you need for the rest of the college basketball season. So don't wait. Download Rhythm today and get ready to see college basketball and your betting results in a whole new light. Well, welcome back to the Field of 68 after lunch. Goodman, I want to make it a public apology. CJ Ingram. Huh?
I haven't even had lunch. You can't call it after lunch. I have not had lunch. I'm not going to have lunch. You've got me working so hard here. I'm grinding. My Wi-Fi went down again. This is the second time we've had a show. I'm renting at a place in Charleston. The Wi-Fi went out again.
Oh,
so I had to come
you're
over
renting at a place in Charleston? Who could have figured that out?
So
no one knew that.
Before we move on to your next guys, I got to give a little pop to the guys that are letting me use their space today, the College of Charleston, Chris Mack and his staff, because they are the only ones, to my knowledge, that have landed 3 players today, right? Rob, has anybody else, to your knowledge, landed 3 players today?
Hey, you're the one grinding it. I'm just over here making you work.
You really are. I mean, it's crazy. Like the amount of calls I've made today.
You wouldn't have to work this hard if you could figure out how to get internet to work in the year of our Lord 2025. Don't blame me because you are technologically illiterate.
You can't tell me this is my fault. Anyway,
I just did.
Not my fault.
Yeah, shout out to Chris. Go ahead.
Christian Reeves started his career at Duke, Clemson last year, big man who they see as maybe in the James Scott type role at Charleston, a difference maker. Connor Hickman, who was terrific at Bradley 2 years ago, played at Cincy this past year, was hurt, only played 13 games, started 7 of them. And then Jalen Counter, Middle Tennessee State, a big point guard, really passes the shit out of it. So they've got 3 guys here in Charleston. Beautiful, 75-degree today, Charleston.
Yeah. So what I was going to say before I was so rudely interrupted by my co-host, my apologies to CJ Ingram, an absolute stud, the son of Cornelius Ingram, a longtime Florida He was a Florida tight end, I believe, way back in
Dude,
the
I
day.
covered him. He was
Yeah.
a two-sport star too. I covered his recruitment. He was a stud. His son is going to be better.
His son is a monster. His son is going to play the 3 for Florida this year. That was the guy. I couldn't remember who it was. I was looking at the roster and I couldn't remember who it was. Also, shout out to Pat OD in our chat. One of the funniest comments I've seen in a while. He says, "These guys can never get the guy's name right. Is it Hobo Goblin? Is it Hemoglobin? What's his name?" Speaking about Micah and Lugden, Micah Hemoglobin, which
not wrong.
Which made me laugh.
He's not wrong. It's a mouthful. It is a mouthful.
That one made me laugh quite a bit. Shout out to Pat O'D. That was a funny comment. All right, we teased it a little bit. Let's start with Mackenzie Mgbako and Darian Reed. And from what I've heard, and you correct me if I'm wrong on this one, I've heard that talking about them in the same sentence probably makes the most sense with where their recruitment stands at this point out of the portal. Tell me whether or not you think that is an accurate sentiment.
Yeah, I mean, I think NC State and Will Wade lead for both of those guys, for Mackenzie Mgbako and Darian Reed. But again, I think it's early for Darian right now. Mgbako, I thought it was close. These things change daily because, again, agents are looking for leverage. They're adding schools. Schools miss on guys, and then they move down their lists, and they increase their offers. They're keeping guys warm. So, it's always hard now. It's hard to report on this. And my daughter obviously covers, as you know, Rob, women's college basketball. And I kind of tell her that too. Like, the times have changed. You can put something out that you think is accurate today and it changes. Mm-hmm. And you look like a jackass because you say guys expected to commit, whatever, but the number can change. You can be flipped easily right now. I mean, again, look at, and we'll talk about Trace and Eagle stuff here in a little while, but guys getting flipped. We saw it in football, college football, with the Tennessee quarterback and what happens there, looking for more money. Jeff? What's that?
What's his name?
I have no idea. I can't remember his name. What's his name?
Nico. Can you say his last name?
Harrison.
I am not going to be able to pronounce it.
I know one Nico right now, but I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, even if schools think something is done right now, it is not always done because contractually, all these contracts are different. I would love next year a standard contract, especially when the schools are involved with rev share. It'll be different. There'll be more protection for the school than there is with these collectives. But I think right now it's such a shit show because all these contracts are all over the place, and there's not a lot of protection for the schools, far more protection for the players who can just pick up and leave if they feel like the situation isn't right, if they feel like there's more money out there for them. So anyway, sorry to get off track, but Mgbako, I think it's opening up a little bit right now before it closes. I still think NC State is the favorite, and Will Wade's got a strong-ass offer out there for him, for sure. And then I think certainly with Darian Reed, I'll give you a few more schools that my sources say that you want to watch out for Darian Reed, who, by the way, like, to me, I think he's one of those difference makers right now. I mean, he played a role. He was hurt at Alabama, but I love Darian Reed. I love him because I think he's that interchangeable wing forward who can guard a lot of positions and is versatile offensively. So I would say NC State, Oklahoma, Georgetown, and Ole Miss. Those are 4 teams to keep your eye on right now with Darian Reed, according to my sources.
I think that's the first time in history a student going to Ole Miss and a student going to Georgetown has been on the same list. The same list. I would love to see both of those guys at NC State because I think they both really fit the style that Will Wade would want to play. And you put them with a Trey Holloman, who, by the way, like, perfect kind of a point guard for a Will Wade program. Yeah. Alan Breed and Kadir Copeland. I think there's Will's still got a lot of work to do in terms of filling out that roster. but I think there's a lot of reasons to be excited if he can get Mgbako and Darian Reed. Suddenly, it's kind of filling out real nice, and I think there's a 0% chance that he could end up being pulling a Pat Kelsey or pulling a Mark Pope this year. You mentioned Trayson Eaglestaff, and I think before we get into that, let's kind of discuss a little bit about what maybe started that domino effect happening. Lamar Wilkerson yesterday committed to Indiana, right? And for a while, for most of the weekend, it felt like Lamar was trending towards Kentucky, that was going to be where he ended up going, that was going to end up being the place that he would be committing to. And that's not where he went. He is committed to Indiana. He is joining a program that already includes Tucker DeVries, and he's getting paid a pretty healthy sum of money to be able to head to that program. What did you make of his commitment yesterday and his decision? And how surprised were you that he picked Indiana over Kentucky at the end of the day?
A little surprised, but I think, again, listening to him, I understood it, right? You're getting similar money at these places, and you're saying to yourself, you know what? I got a chance to make a huge impact at Indiana. I can be a starter. I can be a 30-minute-a-game guy and a guy that they're really depending on. Where if I go to Kentucky, like I could be that guy, but I could also be that guy that gets 15 minutes off the bench. They've got far more competition right now. You're looking at all the names and guys. I mean, Otega-Oweh put his name for the draft, but I would assume he's more likely to come back.
He's probably back.
You look at – right? I mean, you would think he's back, wouldn't you?
Yep. My read on it is this, that – I think he said the quote that got picked up that he said in our interview with him yesterday was, I don't want to go to Kentucky and just be another guy. Right. And I think people are misinterpreting that. If you look at what Kentucky's roster is right now, there are a lot of players in that kind of 2-3 mold, right? Otega-Oweh, Jasper Johnson is a guy that is going to be competing with him for minutes. Cam Williams is a guy that's going to be competing with him for minutes. Like there's a lot of
Colin
Chandler,
Trevor Noah.
Trent Noah. Yep. There's just a lot of there's a lot of bodies in that role where even if you end up winning the starting job, you might be looking at like 22 minutes a game, right? Whereas with Indiana, he is going there, and it's going to be him and Tucker DeVries at the 2 and the 3. They want to get a kind of a ball dominant driving point guard that can get into the lane. They have Reed Bailey from Davidson committed there, and they're looking for a stud 5-man to put with him. And all of a sudden, you got a team right there that it is set. You know what your role is going to be. You know what your minutes are going to be. You know how you're going to play. And the question is that. The question that he had was, what is the clarity on what my role is going to be if I enroll there? And no matter what Pope said, it's just impossible to be able to provide that. And like, look, let's call a spade a spade.
The
right?
other
Like
part,
the number from Indiana was a bigger number than what Kentucky had, right? And there's like a relationship aspect there, but that played a part of it as well. But at the end of the day, like it was clarity on what the role and the position that he was going to be. And I don't want to hear this. One of the things that I think fans don't understand is like, why would you want to go to a place that you don't know if you're going to win? Well, every single player that is like this good, that has worked themselves into this position they don't believe that they're going to go somewhere and suck, right? Like he believes he's going to be going to the tournament and competing for championships no matter where he goes. Every player that's in the portal thinks that. So he's like, I'd rather compete for championships and get 33 minutes a game and know I'm going to be getting this many shots in this many positions, as opposed to saying like, yeah, but I could end up getting 15 minutes a game off the bench in a place where they're going to play 11 or 12 guys, because that's just what Pope does. So I think that there's a little bit of undue criticism that is coming from something that was said that was maybe a little bit a little out of context.
I think he also was trying to say that like he wants to go somewhere and get a program back. Like that was important to him. Is the sales pitch from Darren DeVries is like, hey, Indiana hasn't been very good for a while. They've been mediocre for a long time. You can be a part of something here to be beloved. And not that you can at Kentucky, but it's been done over and over and over. I mean, they went through a tough stretch for a few years in the tournament with Cal, but for the most part, Kentucky's been very good for the last 15 years. He knows that. Lamar Wilkerson's grown up with Kentucky being Kentucky and Cal and all this and sees them on TV all the time. His view of Indiana is not our view of Indiana. He can get him relevant again nationally. That I'm sure he's thinking that's an aspect in all this as well.
Yep. So he committed to Indiana yesterday around 3:00. This morning, we woke up and Trayson Eaglestaff, you were breaking the news at Trayson Eaglestaff, North Dakota transfer, averaged 19 a game, shot 37% from three on 7 attempts per game, had the 50 burger in I think it was the Summit League tournament, right? And went for 40 in a game against Alabama earlier this year, that he was decommitting from South Carolina. Am I correct to connect those dots, Jeff, and say Kentucky just missed on this 6'6" shooter, and now they see this 6'6" shooter that has committed but hasn't signed anything, and maybe I can go get that guy?
I think you're incorrect. I think you're actually incorrect in this.
Wow.
Yes, I think you're incorrect. I don't think it's Kentucky. I think the leader right now, from what I'm told, is West Virginia and Ross Hodge, new coach Ross Hodge, who came from North Texas. I think right now that the Mountaineers are the favorite for Trayson Eaglestaff. I think Kentucky certainly can be in the mix. I think two other schools to watch for here that have deep pockets are BYU and Washington as well. But I would say, again, if I'm a betting man, I'm betting on Trayson Eaglestaff ending up in Morgantown right now and playing for new head coach Ross Hodge. I think there's a connection there, between Hodge and his camp, a strong connection as well. And again, it's crazy how this works out, though. You think about it, like he was one of the first guys to commit. Right? He was one of the first guys, big-time guys. He went in early, committed to South Carolina. From what I'm told, I'm sure money is playing a factor here too. But I think he was well compensated at South Carolina for the deal that he committed to and signed. I think it was more a fit as much as anything else. I'm not sure they were ecstatic. His camp was with maybe some of the other players they brought in around him at this point, whether it was not enough talent or the talent they brought in, maybe his role. But I think West Virginia is the leader right now.
Interesting. That is not one that I expected to hear. But it makes sense. Look, Ross Hodge is a hell of a coach. Ross Hodge is the guy that comes from the Grant McCasland School of Coaching. So don't be surprised if West Virginia gets going pretty quickly. He was at North Texas.
Doing that again. Yeah, I'm not doing the I'm gonna go against anybody in the Grant McCasland that tree, the Scott Drew, whatever it is tree. Like I'm all in on those guys.
Yep. All right, a couple more guys that we want to get to, and then we can talk. Oh, we got to talk about Arkansas here a little bit too. But Cedric Coward is a guy. Washington State played 7 games last year before injury, I believe it was. Maybe it was 6. But he put up big numbers in those limited minutes that he played. Started out at Eastern Washington before Washington State, and is linked with like a lot of big name programs. Goodman, what can you tell us about Cedric Coward and where his recruitment stands?
So first, let me kind of give a good scouting report on him. He came from Eastern Washington. Like you said, he suffered a shoulder injury this year at Washington State. Here's kind of a scouting report from somebody that knows him pretty well, who's seen him play a lot. His biggest strengths: motor, work ethic, touch around the rim, 3-point shooting, unselfish, disciplined, length, mid-range game, footwork. He's a long wing. He's 6'6", with a 7'2", I think, wingspan. Weaknesses: not as much experience guarding from the perimeter, getting better at that. He's a guy who's obviously coming off an injury. He is right now, again, one of those guys we talked about before, looking, put his name in for the NBA draft, going to go through the process. The hope is he's a first-round pick, and he never goes to college. I think he'll be a guy, though, that will commit to a school here in the fairly near future. And here, the schools that are in the mix for him, he's got 5 that he's focused on right now: Alabama, Duke, Florida, Kansas, and Washington. And he's meeting with Florida tomorrow over Zoom, according to my sources. And I
How did
think
Washington get in that mix?
they have so much
Final
money.
Final Four last year. Final Four, Washington.
Money, man.
I'm sorry, Danny Sprinkle.
I would say if I had to pick a leader today, and Florida was late to the party here because obviously they just got done with their parade and their boat tour and winning the national title, cutting down nets. But I would say for me, I think per sources, right now, today, Alabama is probably in the best shape. I don't know if Duke waits on the kid. That's the hard part for a school like Duke, right? If you're John Shire, do you wait on Cedric Coward, who's, again, versatile, long, all that? Do you wait on him, or do you go get a bird in the hand? Go get somebody that you know is going to come back to school, or, wait. You're going to have to wait till, again, you're talking probably 6 weeks before you know what a kid like this is doing.
Yeah, it's a tough spot to be in with the way that the timing is working, and it's no longer just a roster spot, right? Because in the past, when you've had to wait for guys to come back, it's like, do we fill that roster spot? Now it's, you got to, if you bring in another kid that you're going to pay him, like, let's just say $2 million, and you know that's what this kid is going to be commanding, like, it's not easy to just dig up $2 million out of nowhere when you know you got that money to spend and you're going to have to find someone to fill that role. So I think he makes sense at Alabama. I think he makes a lot of sense at Florida as well. And look, he's just like your prototype role guy, like a perfect wing on a championship contender. And that's why you see him being recruited by the places he's being recruited. Rodney Rice is the last one that we haven't talked about. And then I do have an update on Tayton Conerway that I think we can share. So what do you have on Rodney Rice and where he's going?
So Rodney Rice is currently on a visit to USC. Right now, he's already visited Tennessee and Villanova. Obviously, Villanova coach is his former coach, Kevin Willard at Maryland. Those three are probably the top three right now, according to my sources. It's kind of a toss-up between those three. Obviously, the visit right now to USC is going to be a big factor. All three of those have money. You look at it, they're probably all in the same range money-wise, too. They're probably all in like the $8 million range total, somewhere in that range, right? Like Tennessee could probably, maybe they could all go a little bit higher. But I think Rodney Rice, again, would be a game changer probably for all three of those programs and any of these top 10 guys, especially a proven guy like Rodney Rice who can shoot the ball. He's got size. He could score it. Would be huge for Musselman, number one, to try to get that program to the next level. And probably bigger for Kevin Willard to have him follow him to Villanova would be huge to get that program back on track.
Yeah, look, I think it's the most important one for Kevin Willard, right? To be able to get a player like that, your guy coming into to the program behind you and following you there. We already saw Jacoby Gillespie make the decision to transfer to Tennessee, so I think that's a big one just for optics more than anything else, right? Like if you end up taking a new job and none of the guys follow you to that new job. Is that something that I feel like that might be something that should be a little bit concerning to some people? But and what's interesting about all this? I don't know. Looking at these top 10 available transfers, do any of these guys? Do you look at them and say that that's going to be an All-American? That's going to be a guy that could be first team All-SEC.
I mean, I think they're all good pieces, but very impactful pieces on good teams. And that's really what you're looking at here as much as anything, right? I mean, all these guys are going to be really good, good high-level starters, maybe all-league players. That's what you're looking for. Out of this level guy, I think you're looking for, can I get an all-league caliber player? And as you and I have talked about, that range for a lot of these guys is $1.5 to $2.5 million. Now, again,
is that what you think all these guys are, like borderline all league guys? Because I think what we're looking at right now, But I'll say Darian Williams, I do think is good enough to be an All-American. But beyond that,
well, what about Xaivian Lee? Xaivian Lee's different because look down the list, Rob, and tell me how many point guards are on the list.
There's not. They're gone. The point guards are gone.
There you go. So Xaivian Lee's value to me, if I'm Xaivian Lee, Todd Golden doesn't want to hear this, but I would be milking Florida and St. John's for everything I could get because, again, if you don't get a guy like this, what is your next option? Your next option is scrambling and taking a major hit because I don't know who that next point guard is that can fill that role.
Let's phrase this another way. If you're Xaivian Lee, where do you think is the better landing spot for you long term? Is it Florida? Is it St. John's? The one thing that I will say is I've been told that academics do matter to the family and that Florida is a better academic institution than St. John's. All due respect to St. John's, Florida is a better academic institution than St. John's is. Are you getting run out of the media room, Goodman?
Yeah, I think it's the volleyball. I'm trying to get him 5 minutes. Yes.
All right, here. Well, we'll wrap it up with this. Tayton Conerway. What are you doing?
I'm bringing in Chris Mack's daughter. What's up? How you doing?
Are you?
Good. How are you? Chris Mack's daughter.
Tell her we're live. Tell her we're live.
We are live. We're live.
Oh,
we're doing a show.
Live.
Yeah, your dad got 3 players today.
I know.
You want to break anybody else? Come in the frame so people can at least see you for a second.
Hello. I can't even see myself.
This is Rob. Rob Dawson.
Hi, Rob. I'm Lainey. Nice
How you
to meet
doing?
you.
Good to meet you.
Good to meet you too.
Can you have your team wait like 4 more minutes?
Yeah, I got you.
All right. Lainey's got us covered.
See you.
See, we're not going to get kicked out. Good seeing you, Lainey.
Yeah, you too.
What?
It's always something. You're getting kicked out of media rooms. All right, let me just say this on Tayton Conerway.
We're all waiting. We got to wrap. We got to wrap soon.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. So Tayton Conerway he visited Vandy, he visited Mississippi State, he visited Indiana. It's similar to you referred to this a little bit earlier, similar to the Malik or the Mackenzie Mgbako situation where he had a good offer from Indiana. It looked like he was leaning towards Indiana, and then another program came in and said, we need this guy. We need to find a way to make this one work. Again, he is a point guard, and there's not a lot of point guards left in the portal. So I think that it still feels like Indiana could end up being the leader, but I don't think it's as simple as he is a guy that's going to end up at Indiana when things are all said and done. One interesting thing to note, he does have the same agency repping him that Lamar Wilkerson does. So I don't know if that'll play a role, but that is something that is.
I got one more update. Can I give one more update on a player that no information has been out there? And this is not guessing, but this is a little bit of like, I don't feel great on these, but I got one source that told me Jameer Watkins is some of his schools. And he's up there on our list, right? Like top 3 Florida State transfer. 3 schools that I'm told could be in the mix for Jameer Watkins. Louisville, Kentucky, Illinois. Duke, I don't know if it's going to work at Duke, but he's going to go to the highest level schools. Super talented wing who can really fill it up.
He is a good player, and he's older too. I think isn't he 23? He's a 5th-year senior that he had a big season this past season. Are you going to tell us anything about the Arkansas players that have committed? They got Nick Pringle, they got Malik Ewan. They are they're looking like, with some of the freshmen they got coming in, they're looking like a team that could end up being a preseason top 10 caliber team this year.
Yeah, no doubt. They got 2 bigs. I mean, 2 bigs. Auburn got 2 bigs in the last 24 hours. So both of them, Malik Ewan will certainly help. I think Keyshawn Murphy will help Auburn up front. So both of those teams got 4s and 5s and maybe a backup 5 for Auburn, the JUCO kid. And Pringle, Pringle's certainly older. I mean, Nick Pringle, this is his 6th year of college coming up because he got a year back from the JUCO ranks.
Yeah, I will say this about Arkansas, and then we can get out of there before you get yelled at by the volleyball team. Nick Pringle, Malik Ewan at the 5, Darius Acuff, Malik Thomas, potentially DJ Wagner in the backcourt with Trevon Brazile, Carter Knox, and Billy Richmond on the perimeter. That is and Isaiah Seeley's coming in as well. That is a team that all of a sudden has a ton of talent. They got some veteran presence. They got some size. They got some depth, and they look dangerous. Coach Cal's back, baby. Coach Cal is back. Goodman, I cannot wait for him to make another Cinderella run Cinderella cow.
story.
Cinderella cow. Listen, this has been the Field of 68 after lunch. Go get something to eat so you don't get yelled at by these volleyball players coming in. For Jeff Goodman, my name is Rob Doster, and we will see you guys again on Monday afternoon. We're going to try to do these every Monday and every Wednesday moving forward.